Yeah, just having a little think, and I thought I will share these thoughts with you. You want to know why government, in its present condition, functions a bit like a crazy person or a psychopathic person? Well, here's why. Because when it's representing another human being and it's doing things, whatever those things may be, they're always for a human being, aren't they? Yeah. So if it's functioning for a human being and like a human being, then let's assume for a minute that we can kind of compare it to a human being. Okay? Right. So if it is functioning like a human being, what's wrong with this human being? I'll tell you what's wrong. Yeah? It is disjointed and disconnected between the thoughts and actions it takes, and what actually happens, and if, for example, there was a problem that they are responsible for, they do not take responsibility in quite the same way a real human being does. You understand? Because they're so disconnected and disjointed. I'll give you an example. The same department on the same day can issue 2 letters, both of which contradict each other, and it happens all the time. I've got loads of examples. I'm not going to go into it because it'll bore you. The main point is that it's like a human being that you asked a question 5 minutes ago and they said yes, and then you ask them now and they say no, and they can't even remember you asking them the question 5 minutes ago. You understand? Yeah. So in some cases you can say, oh, it's a bit like amnesia then, isn't it? Well, yes and no, because this actually happened, but it's like as if another person did it. It's multiple personality disorder, isn't it? Where you've got different people with their opinions coming into it, you see. When they make these decisions about discretionary this and all the rest of it, they are taking the liability. They're taking responsibility as an individual for making that decision. But many of them don't even realise that, they think that they're in a job now, so the rules of being a human being are forgotten. And what's got to be really one of the main remedies is to fix this fractured human being, so that all parts of it are in contact with each other, because it's like the nerve endings are numb. They can't touch each other, they can't feel the sensations coming from the other parts of the bodies of the government. Yeah, if you think of the government like a human body, and each part has a function, like you've got your hands and you've got your eyes, yeah, and you've got your feet, and you've got your arms and your legs, and each thing does a specific thing, doesn't it? Each part of that government does a specific job, and when you put it all together, that's the whole person. So how can a whole person function if the leg is paralysed, and then because of that causes some other paralysis, and so on and so on? You've been through this many times yourselves, where if you don't fill in this form, it affects everything else that you're doing. So this is what I'm talking about. There has to be a holistic view. Yeah, and that's why those at the top are ultimately responsible, because they're like the brain governing everything. If they don't open their mouth and say, hey, my leg's gone numb, I need to walk about a bit because I've got cramp, then guess what? The next thing, the leg's got gangrene, hasn't it? It has to be cut off. No, in governmental terms, that means there's no money flowing and the department isn't doing what it's supposed to, and it gets closed down and people lose their jobs. Everything being taken from the public sector, i.e. the government, well, it's actually ours, but, supposedly responsibly being managed by the government because people are too lazy to do it for themselves, or they've elected for that. You understand? So there needs to be accountability, and always at the top. And they're not accountable, clearly, because every department's doing what it wants, and it'll, issue 10 different letters, all contradicting each other, which is part of the game. And it's almost like they've allowed this game. If that was a human being, making that many mistakes, would they even be out in society, out on the street, free to walk around? That's what we really need to start asking ourselves, because, you know, if we want to solve it, we're gonna have to know what the problem is, and it's like that. There's no responsibility. You know, it needs to go back to general humanities. Yeah, people, I think, need to recognise that their government will always fail as long as they pretend to be human beings without all the rest of the things that make us human. Yeah, it's the emotion that they don't want you to have. That's why everything in society is geared towards twisting your emotions, yeah, and making a warped, distorted view of things. So there's nothing precious or perfect anymore. You know, they want to corrupt our children, corrupt us, and corrupt every part of our society, so that in that corruption they look good, you see. But if we're not corrupt, if we uncorrupt ourselves and remove all these trappings that make us, like, you know, the perfect host for their type of mental algorithms, then, you know, it won't have an effect, will it? Or you'll be able to see the answer clearly. You know, just as an adult can see when a child is in danger and can say, oh, I'm going to stop that from happening before that hurts a child. You understand? It's called responsibility, isn't it? And there's not very many people at any level, really, or whether it's business or government, that are responsible for anything anymore. They just go in, they get a wage, and that's them. Don't ask me no questions. That's what they're like. If you ask questions, they're like, they'll smile up and they'll squirm and they'll try their best to get through it. But really, they don't like human interaction. That is a problem. Go check it. You know, the people that do not like the human interaction, even when that's their job. It's weird. It's weird. It's like, why do it? Why do it at all? Anyway, I'm just going to leave you those thoughts. I hope people realise that we have to be part of the solution, you know, and love is the answer at the end of the day. If we're going to fix and heal people, it's got to be love. It's got to be done through love. There's no other way. So peace and love, peeps. Bless.